Mayor, you're relatively new in office. Um,
Mhm.
let's talk about this business amnesty program in just a second, but more broadly, can you talk a little bit about what the transition phase has been like for you? You're just a few months into leading the city of South Fulton.
Yeah, it's only been a few months, but I've been on the council for the past 8 years. So understanding the direction and the energy that is behind making sure that our city shines in the best light possible. So it may be a new role for me, but it's not a new job because that is what we've been doing for the past 8 years. And we will continue to move the city in the right direction. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing, especially the people and the residents that live here. They deserve it.
So you've got this new program that's being rolled out offering amnesty to, correct me if I have this wrong, but amnesty to people who maybe have a business operating right now in the city, but they don't have the proper licensing. This is an amnesty program to help them get properly licensed, right? Can you explain to
Yes.
folks who maybe are listening and they say, hey, that applies to me? What do they need to know? What do they need to do?
Well, we want them to come into compliance. This program starts on April 1st and it goes to June 30th. And what we're looking at is through some of the research, we found that we had about 8,900 businesses that were out of compliance with the city of South Fulton. And we want to make sure that, they have businesses, especially small businesses, have a clean slate. So we took a look at how we can make that happen. So we are looking all the way back to 2023, erasing any penalties and fines and taxes that small businesses may owe, and giving them a fresh start. This is also will be able to give us a clear signal to our community that we are really ready to do business, and we want you all to be able to thrive in our city. So this was one of the first acts that I wanted to do. Coming on board as mayor is making sure that our business community knows that we're here to support them because small businesses are the fabric of our community.
Did I hear you correctly? 8,900 businesses were out of compliance?
Through the research that we found, yes, 8,900 businesses were out of compliance. So we are in the process of correcting that. We have some additional tools to make sure that we bring those businesses into compliance, but we want to make sure that we give businesses the opportunities to come to us and say, hey, we have these taxes and we're ready to give them a fresh start.
That's a big number, Mayor. Almost 9,000 businesses. This amnesty program is being
Yes.
rolled out now. Um, are there any conversations in your office or at City Council about the underlying licensing procedures themselves? Is there anything in this research that you've done that you feel indicates the licensing procedures are difficult or onerous, and perhaps that contributed to so many businesses not being properly licensed?
Well, certainly there's been some changes in our administration. There's been some turnover in, permitting and licensing, but we are on course correction. So we are fixing those things. It can be very difficult. I'm a business owner, so I am very aware how difficult it is to do business. And my goal is to make sure that residents and business owners have that understanding of that our city is a business friendly place, and that we are doing what we can to streamline the process and to help them out.
This program, as you mentioned, it runs April 1st to June 30th, so we're about to see it begin. It'll run for about 3 months. We're short on time, but I want to make sure we make time for this question. How does a business owner who maybe falls into this category of not being fully and properly licensed, what specific steps do they need to go through to apply, to participate in this amnesty program, and make sure they dot all their I's and cross all their T's?
All of that information will be placed on our website. They can also come down to our city hall that is on Fulton Industrial. We have our planning department and business licensing department here as well. And then we'll also have it to where we have some outreach to help businesses to come in compliance. So there'll be some education tools around it as well. So we'll have all of the things that business owners need to make sure that they do come in compliance and get their business up and off the ground running.
A powerful new program inside the Cobb County Jail that is working to keep families together, even those behind bars. This is called Bond Beyond Bars, giving incarcerated parents a rare chance to see and even connect with their children face to face. Here now to talk about this brand new program is Chief of Staff David Jones and Major Yamana Holt from the Cobb County Sheriff's Office. Glad to have both of you with us this morning. So again, this is a brand new program, something that you are starting today. Just talk a little bit about why this is starting.
All right, well, 2 years ago, we started a program called Live Nobly, and it's a fatherhood program that we did with the Divine Nine. And throughout the Cobb County Sheriff's Office, we have over 10 programs to help our detainees with recidivism and just to give them something to do within our detention center. And so we have a parenting program and we have a fatherhood program. And so from that, it kind of morphed into what more could we do to allow the fathers and the parents to have more connections with their children.
Why is that so important, Major, to have these incarcerated people, these incarcerated men for the most part, interacting with their children and other loved ones?
So it gives them that sense of hope, to let them know that they do have something to look forward to once they are finished with their sentence, or once they get to that point where they're sentenced and they go home.
What kind of feedback have you already gotten from some of the inmates? Again, this particular program is just starting, but you talked about some of the others that really have made a difference already.
Yeah, they're really looking forward to it, and they think that this will be something special to them, to help them really think about, you know, the mistake that they made, and if they spend the time with their children, will give them a newfound hope when they actually are released.
So let's talk about what these visits would look like. Obviously, the children, the parents come to the jail, but you know, what would a typical visit be like?
So this is going to be more intimate. They will spend more time with the children as opposed to the guardian that's there, because that's what the relationship that we want to foster. We want to be able to take the information and lessons and tools that we have given them going through our parenting 101 class to be able to talk to the kids, build that relationship, so they'll color. They'll have a lot of relaxed time, and it's in our training center, our GED training center, so it's not going to be bars or confinement, but it is a more relaxed area for them to be able to talk.
Because you want the kids to be comfortable. I mean, going into a jail to see your parent is not a comfortable experience, but you want to make it as comfortable as possible.
That's
yes,
right.
Yes,
Exactly.
We definitely do.
All right, so who qualifies for this? I mean, are all of the inmates able to participate, or do they have to have some sort of good behavior? What's sort of the requirement?
So the detainees have to be first compliant within our facility, and then they're moved to a compliance area. And within that area, they have access to all of our inmate programs, the 10+ programs that we have. As a requirement for this particular Bond Beyond Bars, they would have already taken our Parenting 101 class, and some have been in our anger management class, and then they have to want to build that relationship with their children. So we went through an interview process, more or less, to be able to see who it is that wanted to participate. We received the information of their guardian. We did checks to make sure that there were no consent orders or any thing that would keep us from making contact with the guardian. And then the guardian, we took over after that and had one-on-one conversations with the guardian to let them know about coming in, what would be expected during that time that they're visiting.
Yeah, got about 20 seconds left. Has the feedback so far been positive? Have you had any other people feel like maybe this isn't the right program?
We haven't. Everything has been positive. We think that this has been a great opportunity for really the parent, the father, to be able to spend time with the children and foster those relationships so that they can, you know, get back into the community and be successful.
Decatur City Manager Andrea Arnold, who is joining us live. Let's start with this. You just heard that reporting from our Joe Ripley. How big of an economic impact could the World Cup bring to the city of Decatur?
All right. Well, thanks for having me, and I'm glad that you asked that question. We actually just recently engaged with an Emory professor, Dr. Tom Smith, who prepared an economic impact analysis. And on the high end, we're looking at over $104 million of economic impact to the city of Decatur, just as a result of the World Cup and the Watch Fest activities that we're going to be hosting here on our square.
I want to ask you about WatchFest in a moment. Let's talk about those figures there. What does an injection of potentially $100+ million into the economy of a city like Decatur mean, not just for the city government, but for residents there?
Right. Well, it's going to be certainly a boon for our businesses. And also, the previous story talked about our square being under construction. And so we see this event and the positive economics that will come with it as a big thank you to our businesses who've endured the construction for almost the past year. But what's unique about Decatur is the type of community that it is, with these being locally owned and operated businesses, that the money that's spent here is likely, more of it is likely to stay within the community. So, you don't see a whole lot of big box names here. These are locally owned shops and restaurants. And so as the money is spent, it tends to get reinvested back into this community. So that's going to be good for businesses and residents alike, and certainly helping with the economic vitality of the community.
And Andrea, I want to ask you one last question here. We're a little short on time, but this is important. We talked a lot about WatchFest for folks who maybe live in the Decatur area or want to come and visit and participate in WatchFest. Lay it all out for us. What is that going to mean, and how do people participate?
Right. First of all, everything with WatchFest is free. So for the 34 days of the FIFA World Cup, the city of Decatur, on each of those 34 days, we will be showing, we'll be hosting watch parties. So we'll be showing matches. Of course, we can't show every match. So we will encourage people to go into the pubs and restaurants to see other matches. And also every single day, we will have a concert, and we'll be kicking off the concert series on June 11th with Big Boy, and then we'll be wrapping up with the final of the tournament on July 19th with the Indigo Girls. In between, we have War and Treaty, and then a number of other local and regional bands.
I want to ask you your thoughts on this bill as lawmakers continue to discuss it.
As a leader for APS, I think that it is always unfortunate when representatives bring bills that are supposed to represent APS as a whole without having APS at the table to discuss. And in this instance, we're talking about the safety of our children. One representative noted that it was aggravating. And while it may be true to have to slow down, in our school zones, we are really tasked with making sure that our children are protected when they're coming to and from school. APS has put a lot of effort in encouraging our families to walk and bike to school, and we want to make sure they can do that as safely as possible.
What changes would you make to this bill to make it safer for students?
So I think the requirement that the public will have to vote on it, that delays our ability as a district to immediately come in and identify problem zones that may need some additional attention over the year. We would have to wait. Our students would have to wait to feel safe until we get it to a voting period. The 1 hour before and 1 hour after school, we're encouraging our students to really be involved in after school activities. We're encouraging them sometimes to come before school for tutorials with our busing. It really just restricts our ability to have positive kind of space to protect our students throughout our normal work day. What about evening sports? How do we ensure that our students are going to still have that expectation of being able to get in and out of our school campuses as safely as possible?
This bill, when spoken about earlier this week in the Senate, got broad support from our state senators. What would you say to them? What would your argument be?
So my argument at this time is really just pay attention to what has happened. We're already seeing a significant behavior change that has occurred in those speed zones. We're seeing families really take that into consideration. We're having less incidents and accidents. Keep in mind, there's over 25,000 incidents involving children coming to and from school around the nation. In APS, we're committed to ensuring that the process is smooth, the process is as fast as possible. We know people have places to go, they're doing multiple drop-offs, but we have to prioritize safe passageway for our families if we want them to be educated well.
Some critics of using traffic cameras say it's a way for local governments to increase their revenue. What would you say to those critics?
So what I'll say to them is Atlanta Public Schools, at least, doesn't even get the lion's share of those fees and expenses. And it's really not about the fees. Again, it is about changing a behavior in our school zones. And if we're not massing millions of dollars from this project, it really is in the spirit of having people have that reminder that this is a place where our children are coming to learn and we have to protect it.
And what are you hearing from teachers and students who especially live in some of these busier, more trafficked areas?
So a lot of our teachers are walking, biking to school. A lot of them, if you have early morning bus duty, you want to make sure that we're keeping our staff safe, we're keeping our administration safe, our parents safe as well. I have found that many parents appreciate having that the comfort of knowing that there is at least a safety zone surrounding their child's school, especially in problem areas where we're seeing people frequent speeders in those communities. We want to make sure that we keep that consistency, and we wouldn't want to have to, again, wait on voters to allow us to do what we know is best for our children.
All right. I want to ask if you have anything else, Jessica, to add. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I would just say to all of our representatives and legislators, make sure APS is at the table and we can be partners in some of these decisions that affect our children.
And actually, before I let you go, has anyone reached out to you from our state government to speak to you about your views on this?
Well, I've reached out to them because I'm going to insert myself into this conversation at this juncture. And so I'm looking forward to hearing from them and sharing our perspective and sharing the data that we have on the district side about why this project matters.
Mental health struggles are still running high here in Georgia and across the country. From daily anxiety to millions relying on medication, the need now for new solutions is also growing. Now, an Atlanta-based company is testing a different approach, connecting patients to community, not just prescriptions. Joining us now to talk about it is Chris Appleton, founder and chief executive officer of the healthcare platform Social RX. So glad to have you on this morning and such an important topic. So this all falls under what you could call social prescribing. So for viewers who haven't heard of that, what exactly is it?
Thanks, Jonathan, for having me. Social prescribing is when your doctor prescribes you participation in things like going to a dance class or a community gardening workshop. Here in Atlanta, going to the Botanical Gardens or the Alliance Theater to support your health, whether that be your mental health, to reduce stress, or even to improve your physical health.
Yeah, so important here other than just taking medicine. So what problem are you trying to solve with our current healthcare system with what you have now?
Well, we all know, as you spoke to, the growing mental health crisis here across the country, and Georgia is not unique in that. And there just aren't enough providers. We can't train and hire our way out of the problem. We have to get new solutions into the ecosystem and meet people where they are. And social prescribing is a well-worn practice that's been happening in the United Kingdom for 40 years, supported by the NHS, the National Health System there. And we are connecting patients to these community-based supports through prescriptions from their healthcare providers.
Yeah, so explain a little bit more about how Social RX works.
That's great. So we partner with health systems here in Atlanta, like Grady and Wellstar Health System. And a patient, let's say the Grady Cancer Center has a recent cancer diagnosis, which certainly many types of care are needed to support that patient. But with a recent diagnosis, as somebody is going through cancer treatment, they may struggle with their mental health. And their healthcare provider can prescribe participation in these community-based activities. And we connect those patients to community partners for them to participate in these programs.
So is the goal here to combine this with therapy or medication, or to have it separate, or work alongside it?
It works alongside. It depends really on the acuity level of the patient and what the patient's needs are, right? So some folks with mild mental health concerns that are maybe subclinical don't yet need to be in the care of a therapist or receive prescription for medication. This can be a standalone treatment or intervention, but certainly for individuals that need to be in the care of a therapist or other clinical provider or need to be on medication, that this is an adjunct or addition to.
Yeah, it's still to most people a relatively new concept. So to people who hear this and think, okay, this sounds really nice, but if you're having some of these struggles, does it really work? What do you say to those people?
There's an abundance of evidence that shows that participation in community-based activities like art, nature, community supports, movement, and dance supports our health. There are centers for arts and health and arts and medicine across the globe, at Harvard, at Duke, at Johns Hopkins, at UCLA, University of Florida. In fact, today is International Social Prescribing Day, and so while this movement is relatively novel here in the United States, there's much evidence to support it.
Chris, before you go, got about 30 seconds here. Why do you think Georgia is the right place to kind of launch this model?
Georgia is a hub of innovation in both healthcare and in the arts. Atlanta is the cultural capital of the South. Many would say the cultural capital of the country. And we have incredible research institutions here in the Atlanta region, great health systems here in the Atlanta region, and a lot of need.
So anytime we talk about health, it is a topic that encompasses a lot of subtopics, and medicine can take many forms. Healing can take many forms. We want to bring in right now Dr. Emily Pinto Taylor at Grady Memorial. Doctor, thank you for your time. I understand that today is known as Social Prescribing Day. For somebody who maybe doesn't know what that means, bring us up to speed. What is this day? Why is it important?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My clinical practice, I'm a doctor and I work in primarily the palliative care outpatient clinic at Grady. And in that context, we see patients who are struggling with serious illness, things like cancer, but also, advanced heart failure or COPD or liver, kidney failure. And we help manage symptoms and we help with support. And a lot of those symptoms and support that people have or that they need while they're going through illness is really bigger than just the side effects of their treatment. It's in figuring out how to help them maintain a sense of connectedness to their community, right? These are typically people who have jobs and families and communities and churches and apartment buildings and great social networks that as soon as they get sick, all of a sudden, all of that goes away. And social prescribing was a concept that came out, I think, initially out of the Netherlands, but has exploded since, where health providers are able to say to families, hey, it sounds like you are really struggling with a lack of connectedness. Let me help encourage you to manage your mental health, your depression, your anxiety, your social isolation, by instead of starting you on a pill, connecting you with a community. And so what does that look like? It can look like referring somebody to go to a museum, to go take in a ballet performance or recital, to go to a concert. It can be more active, go to take a painting class, take a hip hop dance class. And all of those choices are guided by the patient, their family, and what's important to them. And so social prescribing is just really that fundamental process of a health provider, typically a doctor, saying to a person, hey, I see that you've become disconnected. And I think connecting you in community would really help you feel better and be able to engage better in your treatment.
I'm sure there's research on this. What does the research show that this kind of social prescribing impacts the outcomes of these patients who receive it?
So it's interesting. There is research, as you can imagine. That research, it depends on sort of what you're looking at. So there's a ton of research that shows that engagement in the world, engagement in community, helps improve people's mental health and that helps them stay connected and care. What we are trying to figure out, we're actually studying this right now, Grady, and what we're trying to figure out is, does involvement in these social prescribing experiences also impact people's ability to come to more of their follow-up appointments, fill their medications on time, keep them out of the hospital, either for their underlying serious illness or for their mental health or both. And so we're looking at whether just helping people broaden their community and feeling rooted to the world actually helps them stay connected to managing their serious illness. So far, it's looking extremely promising. That data is just about to be done under review. We have like one more month to go, so we'll find out.
How widely adopted is this idea of social prescribing? And I want to caveat that question. I would imagine there are a lot of doctors, there are a lot of nurses, there are a lot of nurse practitioners across the country who for generations have either intuitively or research-based told patients, hey, take your medicine, also go outside, also talk to your friends, also go to church, it's good for you. But now that there is, it seems, an emerging field of research on this, an emerging body of research, how widely adopted is this practice in regular, everyday care that people get when they go to the doctor?
So I think that's a great way of thinking about it. So yes, for a bajillion years, we've said, hey, your diabetes is out of control. You should take your medicines, and also you should go for a walk after dinner. I think part of what pushes this beyond go for a walk after dinner is that it's a sense that not only do you need that opportunity perhaps to be outside, but you need people. That the most fundamental thing you can do to help someone get better from an illness is help them be connected to people. And so if those people, that community can look any number of ways. I have patients in palliative care who tell me all the time that their most important people are a phone call that they have with the church lady prayer circle that they just listen to and they don't even talk. But that the act of calling in and knowing those people are there on the other line is something that is sustaining for them and helps them feel rooted and connected. But we also know that engaging in arts and culture experiences are something special. There is something different about the changes that happen in your brain when you sit through a concert performance, when you observe beautiful art at the museum, when you go to a painting class. And I have patients who have told an impact it's had on them, which has been a really delightful thing to see. I think the other thing that I'll say is that when we think about how commonly used is this, the reality is that these types of experiences are typically not available to my patients. They're not available equitably, right? My patients are primarily uninsured and underinsured, and they're likely to not be able to access things like an amazing museum or a ballet performance or the Atlanta Symphony. And so the ability to work with a prescribing partner, we use a partner called Social RX, which is this really neat emerging company that's now working around the country. The ability for that company to bill insurance, to bill Medicaid, to actually connect with then these social community groups and say, hey, I have a person, they're interested in coming. Can we facilitate that relationship and do all of that work for us? Takes a lot of onus off my patients, for whom maybe the logistics of how do I set up an Uber and get someone to come with me and get to the museum and get home, like a lot of that is then taken off their plate.
Can I pause us there for a second? You just said something pretty interesting. You referenced Social RX. Is that, if I'm understanding you correctly, is that a program that, I mean, you as a doctor can literally write a prescription for, the prescription to go to the ballet, go to a museum, and they will bill insurance, and insurance will pay for that outing?
So it's extremely cool. So Social RX is a company, and I sort of think about them as the connection point, their connection point. They work with our community health or our community arts and culture partners. So if you run, let's say, a local ballet studio, you might be willing to have some people come and take classes there as a sense of social connection. But it's going to be really hard for you to work with me at Grady. Like, how do I prescribe a ballet class to a patient there? And so you would work with Social RX, which is this broader company that builds all these connections. They also have really incredible health navigators. They have care navigators who serve a role that is mixed, both a facilitator, but also they themselves are a health practitioner. And so they're typically a nurse or a social worker. They make the connection with the patient. They do an assessment. They say, hey, what are your symptoms? Do you have anxiety? Do you have depression? They use validated tools to figure out how severe it is. And then they also say, what do you like? What brings you joy? What are your abilities or your disabilities? And how do we help adapt the experience for that? And then they build a series of opportunities. So they say, oh, okay, based on what you've told me, you probably wouldn't like a pottery class, but you might like a hip hop class. Let's talk about that. And then they set up the experience. And then they loop back with the provider. So I actually get information from them that says, hey, Mrs. Smith went and her depression score was very severe when she started. She's now been to 3 sessions and these are her depression scores. They're improving. So they give me follow-up information as a provider, which really helps me be able to do a better job. When I see Mrs. Smith 3 months later and she's better, I have a sense of why she's better. And do I want to put her on medication or not? And how do we do shared decision-making around that?
Head of Petroleum Analysis at Gas Buddy, Patrick DeHaan. Thanks so much for being with us, Patrick.
Thanks for having me.
So how does President Trump's new deadline for Iran impact those gas prices? What are you expecting to see?
Well, not a whole lot of an impact at all. I mean, oil prices really look at what's happening with the Strait completely. So as long as that remains essentially blocked off by the threat of attack, we're going to continue to see gas prices go up. Now, the good news, of course, Georgia got its gas tax holiday, a big drop in gas tax of about 33 cents. And we're seeing that materialize. In fact, Georgia, really the only state that's seen a week-on-week decline in prices. And a lot of that is because the gas tax holiday, the state average, as you mentioned, down this morning about 18 cents a gallon in the last week. Now, you may not feel the full 33-cent decline because in the backdrop of this, the wholesale price has been going up. But Georgia now one of the cheaper states in the country for gasoline, but the price may still continue to go up so long as the Strait of Hormuz continues to be closed. Oil prices continuing to go up this morning. The extension, something to keep an eye on, but we're also getting close to the weekend when we've seen a little bit more of the fiery rhetoric from the White House, and that could continue to push oil up in the days ahead if there's no potential deal with Iran.
And how long does it take for oil prices to actually be impacted after, say, Trump makes an announcement or Iran changes their strategy? What's the time of impact on those gas prices for consumers?
Well, essentially very quick. Unless an announcement happens on the weekend, then it's going to obviously take until Sunday night. That's when oil markets reopen, is Sunday night for electronic trading, and then Monday, obviously normal hours. So if an announcement is made over the weekend, it won't impact prices until potentially Monday night. That's when stations will be buying gasoline that could be potentially impacted by anything on Sunday or Monday. So the impact is relatively quick. When prices go up, it's quick. And when prices go down, well, we've already seen the 18-cent drop because of the tax holiday. So it should be quick depending on the degree of what's announced. If it's something small and insignificant, it probably won't be a needle mover. But if it's something like the Strait reopening in full confidence, then we could see gas prices going down relatively quickly in the days following.
And Iran has stayed pretty steadfast, saying they do not want to open the Strait. So we will see what happens over the weekend. What's your advice to consumers, to folks who might need gas today in the face of all this uncertainty?
Yeah, it's a very unpredictable time. I say, how you drive, certainly getting more miles out of your tank is good advice right now. But the other thing, too, is with the huge fluctuation in price, always shop around. Stations are having significant price changes, some of them faster than others. And if you need to fill your tank, price comparison apps are the way to go, whether it's Gas Buddy, Google Maps, or Waze. Make sure you're finding those lower price stations. They're still out there, but it can be like finding a needle in a haystack.
And my last question, just want to clear something up for some folks who might worry about an actual gas shortage. We are not as impacted in terms of the amount of gas. Is that correct? It's more the price here in the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. We are seeing nothing of anything that would be a shortage at all. And I would be shocked to see something like that. And that's where the U.S. and our huge oil production is keeping things steady. That is, you may see challenges overseas because of the disruption in the Strait of Hormuz. But the U.S., keep in mind, the world's largest oil producer, I really don't believe that shortages are on the horizon anytime soon.
Home buyers, they are still, in many places, feeling the squeeze. Rick should be joining us now. Rick, thank you for your time. Can you hear us okay here?
I can hear you fine. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for being with us, although I get the sense that you're going to be sharing some information that some potential home buyers may not be exactly thrilled to hear. Bring us up to speed for people who want to get into a new home in Metro Atlanta. What's the state of play?
Well, the state of play in Metro Atlanta is pretty much the same state of play we're seeing in most of the country right now. Very, very difficult for your average household to be able to afford to buy a house. Affordability today is probably it's been in 40 years, since the 1980s. And back then we had the excuse of mortgage rates routinely being 18, 19, 20%. This time it's really more of a fundamental issue. We don't have enough supply to meet the increasing demand of a growing population. And that's caused home prices to go up. And unfortunately, mortgage rates went up a couple of years ago. And that 1-2 punch really has made it difficult for a lot of people to achieve that dream of home ownership.
Rick, I think a lot of people are going to hear what you just said. Probably the worst it's been since the 1980s, and they're going to react with some alarm. You point to this supply and demand issue you're talking about here. I am no economic expert, but I suspect a lot of people would hear that and say, well, isn't supply and demand supposed to be an economic law that brings cost closer to parity? Whenever one side of the equation's out of whack, the other compensates. If supply is too low right now, you'd think there'd be an incentive to start building more homes because there's clearly a demand for it. Why is that not happening?
Oh, how many hours do we have to talk about this, Zach?
We've got a little bit of time, and this is important. So, Rick, the floor is yours, because I think people definitely want to hear this.
You know, it's a very nuanced and kind of complex situation. And the Adam report today really talks about the end result of what you and I are talking about, where in 96% of the counties across the country, homes are less affordable than they've been historically. But we really need to go back probably to the Great Recession in 2008 to see the beginnings of what we're dealing with today. We got through that housing market crash where home prices fell about 30% across the country, much higher in some areas. And home builders underbuilt new homes for more than a decade. If you looked at the 5 years going into 2008, on average, they completed about 1.4 million new homes a year. And since then, the average has been about 787,000 a year. So about half of what they'd been building prior to the housing crash. And the builders got caught with a lot of inventory they couldn't sell. A lot of the smaller builders went out of business because they were taking losses on all those properties. So they've been building more slowly during a period of time when the population in the country has gone from about 300 million to about 340 million. And even with all of those kind of supply and demand forces at play, we were doing okay until COVID hit. And when COVID hit, the Federal Reserve sort of sprang into action. It reduced the interest rates on the federal funds rate to zero for an extended period of time, bought trillions of dollars of mortgage securities in order to keep enough capital in the market for people to buy homes. And what happened then was mortgage rates dropped to historically low levels, 2.5%, 3%. And that created a feeding frenzy of buyers who wanted to take advantage of those rates at a time when there weren't a lot of homes for sale. And that resulted in bidding wars by people looking to buy homes. So home prices went up about 30% in less than 2 years. Then inflation got out of control. The Fed stepped back in, raised the Fed funds rate in an unprecedented manner, and mortgage rates doubled virtually overnight. That had never happened in the history of the US, where mortgage rates doubled in a year. And in 2022, they doubled overnight. So we went from people being able to afford homes, even with prices moving up pretty rapidly because of these 2.5%, 3% mortgages. And suddenly somebody who'd been planning to buy a $400,000 house realized they had to buy a $200,000 house, and there weren't any of those available. So it was a big shock to the housing system. And honestly, we're probably in year 3 or 4 of a 5-year reset period where the market just kind of recalibrates to these new costs, and that's really what's happened here. Plus, with those low mortgage rates, a lot of people refinanced, and they'd normally be selling their house right now, but they can't afford to because they'd be trading in a 2.5% mortgage for a 6.5% mortgage on a house that's more expensive. They just can't afford to do it. So
a lot of that inventory, it sounds like, a lot of that inventory getting locked in part because people have this great mortgage rate, and if they sell the place they move to, that they're not going to get the same kind of rate. Let me ask you this. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel for somebody who wants to buy their first home, but they are listening to this and they're thinking, oh my goodness, this is a pretty dark picture being painted?
Yeah, even in the Adam report, there are some glimmers of hope. And the three things you have to keep in mind when it comes to housing affordability are wages, home prices, and mortgage rates. Wages have continued to go up, and they're going up still between 3.5% and 4.5% a year, which is considerably higher than the rate of inflation right now, which is about 2.4%, 2.5%. Home prices have slowed down, and particularly in the South and the southeastern parts of the country, we're actually seeing markets where home prices are declining on a year-over-year basis. So wages going up, home prices coming down. And even though mortgage rates have ticked up a little bit because of oil prices and the war in Iran, they're still down about 0.5 point from a year ago. So that combination of mortgage rates coming down a little bit, home prices flattening or declining, and wages going up, that's not going to make homes affordable for everybody, but it will make more homes more affordable for more people. So it is showing some signs of hope as we look to the future.
I like being able to share that with our audience who's watching and probably with some level of alarm here. I do want to ask you about the impact of what we've experienced over these last few years, and you've very aptly laid out a lot of the challenges that have been plaguing the housing market for generations. Owning a home was seen as a fundamental building block of lifelong wealth for Americans. If there is a generation out there that for the past number of years has faced tremendous barriers to participating in that building block of wealth, what kind of long-term consequences could those folks face?
Yeah, that's a kind of scary thought you're sharing with your viewers today. You're right that home ownership has been probably the greatest source of intergenerational wealth across the country for centuries, really, right now, as far back as we've had home ownership. I guess what I would say is this: we are seeing millennials, and we are actually even seeing members of Generation Z, of Gen Z, coming into the market as home buyers. They're doing a little later than the preceding generations, but they're still coming on board. And historically speaking, over time, home prices generally still go up. The reality that you're pointing out is the later you get into that role of being a homeowner, the less of that equity you're going to build over time, because it does sort of compound over the years. So what I do tell young people that are looking to buy is look for those opportunities. Don't overextend, because the worst thing you can do is get into a home before you're actually able to support that financially. But get into find that home that you can comfortably afford sooner rather than later. You're paying your landlord's mortgage if you're a renter, and better to be building that equity yourself.
Teen takeovers. It's been a big concern for parents and others in Metro Atlanta. This trend of teenagers converging on an area, we've seen it on the Beltline, we've seen it at Atlantic Station, and it has at times resulted in chaos and arrests of teenagers. So I want to welcome our guest this morning, Victoria Vasquez, who's doing something pretty cool to counter these teen takeovers. Good morning, Victoria. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about the Peace Walk that's organized for this weekend and how you hope to provide a contrast to these teen takeovers.
Yes, so the Peace Walk is happening this summer, and we are trying to get the awareness out there that there will be two. One will be in May and another one will be in June. May 13th and June 30th. But it's not just a moment in time. We are trying to make a peace movement, a play for peace movement, in response to a lot of the youth leaders, right, in Atlanta who launched this peace takeover. We're starting this initiative through the play for peace movement, right? It flips the narrative from the teen takeovers to peace takeovers, right? And it's about creating positive, structured spaces where youth can lead and not just participate. And the program, we have leadership development, peace education, STEAM activities, and even sports. And this is something we want for the students and the youth, and for them to feel seen, heard, and equipped. So that way they're less likely to engage in harmful environments through the teen takeovers.
So tell us a little bit about your organization. Does it involve teenagers themselves taking action?
Actually, yes. So I'm the general director for the Peace Education Department of HWPL Georgia. And what we do is we educate educators. And through that, we've launched so many different pilots across Atlanta. And the youth have been impacted with peace education. It's practical education where youth receive these tools in everyday situations, whether it's at school, online, or in their communities. Right? They understand how to have these skills of conflict resolution, accountability, empathy, and respect. So with this, we've even started some clubs here in Gwinnett County with the student-led clubs. They want peace inside of their schools. They want change inside of their communities from a culture of violence to a culture of peace. So they really have developed these character values that is not just correcting behavior, but actually it's really empowering them to become the leaders of peace for the future generations.
And talk about the difficulty and the challenge of reaching some of these students and convincing them that peace is the way.
it's interesting enough because these students actually want peace. They want peace inside of their schools. A lot of fights occur in schools, and that's why we're trying so hard to not just get this in schools, but in communities, so that way they have reinforcement, right, of the practical tools that they're receiving, that they can implement it in their communities. And so a lot of the challenge has been, with schools, we have curriculum that is being cared about, of course, but we also have to care about our schools being protected, right? Our schools being safe. And the way to do that is to teach the youth how to make peace instead of violence. And so a lot of it has been, the barriers between getting into the schools to institutionalize peace education and really allowing them to learn about peace, right? That's kind of been the hardest thing. But in the community, peace education and youth have wanted this. They want their schools to be safe. They want to feel safe in schools, and they want to create that peaceful culture with their peers. So it's really just ultimately the I want to say the bridges to get inside of the school to teach this peace building, character building education.
What's your advice to parents who might see these videos, some of the images from these teen takeovers, and feel afraid? And some of these parents who may have children who've participated, what should they be saying to their children?
I believe that they should engage. We want to engage youth, right? They have a lot of energy and they have a voice that needs to be heard as well. So I think getting more involved in volunteer and, active engagement within their communities. Many nonprofit organizations such as HWPL Georgia, we host volunteer events literally every other month or every quarter. If they want to make an impact, if they want to make change, there's those opportunities. That's something I wish I had when I was younger, is somebody telling me you can make a difference at a young age. But changing that environment or energy from just kind of like a chaotic energy of gathering, but actually making an impact in their community cleanup with some of the representatives, or donating food for those who are less fortunate, really gathering their energy and creating these impactful, thriving communities where they are. And that would give them that voice that they're trying to actually be seen, right? And being heard and trying to really help their community.
Victoria, if parents are watching and are interested, how can they find out more about your organization and these planned peace walks?
Yes, so we have a website. It's called hwplgeorgia.org, and that's the full Georgia. You can go there. We have all of our information there, as well as we have our Instagram, which we're very, very active on. So you can always see when our next upcoming events are. We have events for all people from all different sectors of society, whether it be media, volunteer, educators, religious leaders. We want everybody to have a part in peace, because it takes really the entire community to make this change.